Well, we got 120 million litres of raw untreated waste that enters the harbour every day. So if you multiply that by 365 days, you know we got a pretty busy harbour. Right now we have about 16 feet of crap at the bottom of the harbour. I mean, the harbour's like a big bowl. And all of the...
toilet bowl.
Like a toilet bowl, exactly. And the bottom 16 feet of that is just filled with crud. But there's a huge mound, 20 feet high mound of crap that just below the outfall, you know, just keeps coming out. The solids, of course, drop and the other stuff drifts away. And then it builds to, 20 feet and then it collapses into itself and then it starts to rebuild again. But this has gone on in 5 or 6 different locations on the harbour. And basically, the big thing about it is, in the year 2000 when, we've come so far and been so civilized, how can we be living in our own filth? We have the facts and we know that the fish are being diseased. Maybe another 20 million litres a day and that's it, it's all over. We don't know. And that's happening. We'll get more and more sewage going into that harbour every day. That fishery could be shut down all the way around this east coast here. We're fouling our own nest. We're sitting here, 30 feet from our own crap.
This is what we don't see. It is out of sight, out of mind. 80% of Canadian coastal communities dump their sewage raw. Victoria, British Columbia's capital, and Nova Scotia's capital, Halifax, release billions of liters of raw sewage every year from outfalls along their coastlines. In St. John's and everywhere else, we are persuaded that sewage treatment is the answer. We place all hope in our sewer technology. And so in Canada, sewer pipes lead to a treatment plant 80% of the time. We invest billions of dollars in sewage treatment. It is the crucible in which we expect to purify toxic sewage. And yet, since the American chemical revolution of the 1950s, countless new and unpredictable ingredients are being added to the sewage recipe. The sewer has become a superhighway for toxic wastes. Every day, a city generates millions of liters of wastewater that contain untold quantities of hazardous components. In the treatment process, we attempt to clean the wastewater and then release these liquids back into rivers, lakes, and oceans. We call it reclaimed water. But how safe are these treated liquid effluents? Here on the shores of the Bay of Fundy, Dr. Wayne Fairchild and fellow researchers have been tracking the effects of sewage treatment effluents on the Atlantic salmon.
Things that we did not think were a problem in the past, and we've treated literally as water going down the sink and not worrying about it because it was just water. We're realizing now maybe that's not the case. And a lot of these things are ending up in sewage treatment plants. And so you're consolidating a lot of things which, some of them may get a clean bill of health, some may not. But there are certainly many products in use right now which we know if they were exposed to fish in small quantities, they're going to cause a problem. And we're using these things institutionally, industrially, we're using them in our homes. These can all be in sewage treatment plants. The fish basically have to swim a gauntlet of potential sources of these types of chemicals in most of the rivers that they live in, just due to the nature of human habitation and settlement. When you come down a lot of these very productive salmon rivers, what do you have at the end? You have a city, possibly a port, industry, associated population, a sewage treatment plant or a wastewater treatment plant, all going into that final area between the freshwater and the ocean, where all of the outgoing smolts have to swim through to get to the ocean. So that if you're having low concentrations of something affect them, you have a shot at affecting the entire population coming out of that river. The problem is, these fish that were exposed are now not meeting their potential. They're smaller fish, they're having trouble, and they are fish that are much less likely to survive once they hit the open sea. But you're not going to see that. That effect is hidden in the environment, and in the case of salmon, it's hidden completely, because if you lose those fish out at sea, they're just gone. You have no measurement of them at all. You don't know whether they did well or poorly, whether they died a month out or whether they died a year later. You don't know. They're just gone. There's a much closer link to things coming back. Things that we put down the drain or put out, we seem to think they're gone. Well, there's actually quite a good link back to things that are important to us and may end up back on our dinner table.
Around our inland lakes and rivers, industry and sewage treatment plants line the shore. Treatment plant effluents contain a whole host of chemicals that may pass through the most advanced treatment process unscathed. The serious pollution comes in parts per trillion. Pharmaceutical compounds in Canada's effluents are among the highest in the modern industrialized world. It raises the question, if these contaminants are harming the fish we eat and are in the water we drink, what effects are they having on us? Waste reform advocate Abby Rockefeller is concerned about the radical disconnection between us and our wastes. In her view, we don't understand the consequences of mixing our wastes together in the sewer.
The fact that the consequences are not immediately connectable, that in that sense invisible to anybody's behavior. They don't see it immediately. They don't see the trouble immediately. That it makes it extremely easy for people to go on with their behavior and not think, and the entire culture, everything, the educational system, the industrial system, all the systems, the government, all encourage people not to think. We inherit these technologies, and there's choices that were made that people who are using the systems didn't make about how to deal with their excreta, and there are laws that tell them they must do it this way. So, I mean, that was, poor thinking. There's bad thinking all along the line, at every industry, at every point. In the waste, in the treatment idea, in the concept of what waste is. So the principle of mixing, but that's the key mistake, it seems to me, the idea that we think we can mix it all together and then separate it.
The sewage treatment process separates the liquids from the solids.